Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jason and you're watching Jason Jensen Trains. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and be sure to click on that bell up in the corner to be notified when I upload new videos. Alright, we have a very exciting episode today. I'm going to show you how I do scenery work. We're also going to work with sculpey. Sculpey is it's basically a clay that you can make shapes with, and then once you get it to the shape that you want it, you put it in the oven for like 15 minutes and it comes out and it's hard. You can still carve it a little bit, but it's a hard detail part at that point. So we're going to use it to make a retaining wall. So very exciting. You're not going to want to miss that. Well, let's get to it. Oh, wait. The first thing we have to do is clean the workshop. Not a fun job, but it is out of control. So we'll head over, clean the workshop, and then come back over here and get some major work done. It's such a huge mess. Wow, that was such a huge mess. That was 6 months of me not cleaning my workshop. Well, it feels so much better now to have it all clean and everything organized. It really got to the point where I didn't even want to come in here and work at all. But now that it's all clean, we can head over to the layout and get some major work done. So as you can see, I've removed the buildings on this side, and I've had to carve away some of the plaster because I have a ramp coming down to a platform here, and then another ramp, another platform, and another ramp. I carved away some of the styrofoam up here, and then made a little foundation for the corner of this structure. And this stone, this little retaining wall, is made out of clay, and we'll go over to the workbench in a little bit and I'll show you how I make these. Next, we're going to texture the road. So let me move this so you can see better. I've taken a pencil and traced along the edge of the curb so I know where the road will be, and we'll set these aside. Now I'm going to use blue painter's tape. Okay, and again we're using the AK product. And I'm just using a piece of wood. Now we'll let this completely dry and then paint it to match this. Excuse me. And while this is drying, we'll paint our sidewalks and the curbs. Okay, now we're going to paint our brick sidewalks. And I'm using French wine. Okay, we're also going to be using burnt sienna. and possibly some tangerine. Now, as you can see, I left them in the order that they go on the layout. So you can see I'm not coloring it or covering it solid, because we're going to use all three colors. Now we'll rinse the brush a little bit, and again, this is burnt sienna. Now if you want, you can actually go back in with some of the red. Just kind of dab it here and there. Okay, now we're actually going to use tangerine. Any bright orange would work. And we'll mix it right on our palette with the other colors. Okay, next we're going to paint the curbs. And I'm using chalk paint. And I'm going to mix it with slate gray. Now we're not going to use much of the chalk paint. It's mostly going to be slate gray. Okay, so these have completely dried. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a black wash. So first I'm going to use this, and then I'm going to add some black India ink. Now I really just guess. Now, after this dries, I'll do some dry brushing. Okay, so we are all done with these. I don't know if you're able to see the different colors. But definitely in person, you can see all the different shades that we put in it. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to show you how I make the stone retaining walls. And I have a really old cookie sheet that I use, and then I take some tin foil, then I take 2 strips of wood. They're 1/8 of an inch thick. Then we're going to use sculpey. It's just like a soft clay, and when you bake this in the oven, it becomes rock hard. Now I shouldn't say rock hard, because you can still carve it. It just becomes really hard. But not so hard that you're not able to carve it. Then I just have this roller. It's an ink roller. You can use anything that's round, anything at all. So okay, now that it's the correct thickness, if you want to, you can carve it. You can cut it straight. It's not necessary, but okay, and don't throw this away. You can definitely reuse it. Now you can carve it. Hopefully you can see that good. So now I can carve it to look like stone. I'll show you in a second when I get some of these carved. Hopefully you can see that good. Once you get it carved and looking the way that you want it, then you just simply put it in the oven. And it says to put the oven at 275 for 15 minutes. Now, it says you can go as thick as 1/4 of an inch. I've never gone any thicker than 1/8 of an inch. And I will show you some examples. So after it comes out of the oven, I let it cool off, and then I normally put a black wash over it, and then I start to dry brush some stone colors like grays and browns, and then you could also put some pastel chalks over it. And like you saw on this one, I actually put some greenery on it. So it's that simple. And I got this at Michael's craft store, but you could also get it at Hobby Lobby. I'm sure you can find it online also. But great material for making your own stone retaining walls or brick, anything you want with it. Now you could even make small detail parts, very small little crates. You could roll it, make little barrels, as long as it's not thicker than 1/4 of an inch. Okay, now that we've got our sidewalks in place, we're going to move on to working in this area. And the first thing I have to do is drill some holes, because I'm going to put a railing across the top of that. And this railing is from TichyTrainGroup.com. So I'm going to put one on the top of this right here, and then over on the other side. You can't see it right now, but we're just going to focus on this side for right now. So I'm going to take my little drill and drill these holes. And what I'm going to do is figure out how deep I want these holes to be. And then I'm going to put a little piece of tape on my drill. That way I know how far down to drill. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. You might not be able to. I'll move the camera and show you later on. I just wanted to get that in place. And now I'll actually remove it while I'm putting in my dirt and bushes and scenery. That way it doesn't get bumped and broken. And then after our scenery is all in place, then we'll glue this permanently in those holes. Okay, now we're going to start to put in all of our dirt. And I'm using a paint called Fawn, but any tan or brown will work. I have a tree that goes right here, so we're just going to put a pencil in that hole so that dirt doesn't get down in it. Now we're going to add some greenery, and I'm just using rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle. And this is half water, half glue. And we're just kind of putting this in the cracks and some of the low areas. Okay, I'm using fine turf, and it's burnt grass. Now we're going to use coarse turf, and again it's burnt grass. Now I'm going to use some clump foliage, and this is light green. This represents maybe some bigger bushes. Okay, now we'll lightly spray it with our alcohol. Spraying it with the alcohol cuts down the surface tension and allows the glue to instantly soak into the material, and without the alcohol it just beads up on top. So be sure to spray your scenery first with the alcohol. So we have a structure that sits right here, and what I've done is I just made a base out of a foundation out of mat board, and I doubled it up so that it's the same thickness as the sidewalks. And that will sit right here, just like that. Now I need to put dirt and grass around it. So I had made a paper pattern to create the foundation. So we'll just lay that in place and put our scenery around it. So again, I'm using fawn, the color fawn. Now we'll remove our little pattern and we'll maybe get some little weeds, some of this little grass growing in the brick. Okay, while our glue is still wet, let's add some trash in here. So I just placed a barrel in there, little crate or pallet, I mean. I've got some little newspapers. Well, as you can see, I've got the building glued in place and my railing glued in place. I was actually recording showing how I did that and I didn't realize that my battery had died. So, but I used liquid nails on both the structure and the railings. So, and then I just did a wash, just some rust colored wash on the stone wall. And then here I did some dark brown washes to represent like the dirt had washed over the top of the wall there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is we have a tree that goes here. But first what I'm going to do is I've got some branches. And I'm just going to glue these branches in place. Okay, now we'll get our tree, and here's our tree. And I will do a video on making trees. I think that's a good spot for it. Now I'm going to use liquid nails. Okay, let's get the other side done, and we'll do this side over here too. This may be getting a little boring watching me do dirt, but it is so neat to see it really starting to come together. I love when it gets to this point where you can start doing scenery work. And I'm going to have to start painting some detail castings to set around. I have collected a lot of detail castings, so it'll be fun to finally get to start painting them all. Now when all of this dries, I'm going to take the vacuum, my shop vac, and go over it, and it'll suck up anything that is not glued down. So So I cut and painted the railing for this side, and we'll glue that in place. I already drilled my holes. Okay, now we're gonna put some rust on that stone, and I'm using medium rust from AK. It was handy, so any rust color will do. I did add a little bit of water to it to make it more of a wash. Okay, there it is. So I just finished putting some washes over the rock work and getting it exactly how I want it to look. Then I did some dry brushing with an off-white, just very little here and there on the highest points of the rock. I did a dark stain, semi-dark, along the bottom to show that the water line might get up to that point, and then all along the bottom I did a gloss coat. And so I went all along here and up onto the rock with that gloss. Now I'm going to put glue in the low areas and add some weeds. Okay, so I'm making some more progress. I've got the ramp coming down. I've added some rope to it. I have this piece next that I have to stain, and that'll get put in there just like that. Fits in there like that. Yeah, this side is almost done. I'll stain this and then come back over and put it in place. Okay, so I still have a lot more work to do, but let me show you up close where we're at so far. Sorry, I know I'm in the light on some of that. I'm pretty excited about how this road and sidewalk turned out. Here's an overall view. I hope you enjoyed today's video. It feels so good to be back working on the layout. I've had so much fun in this video adding different textures. Texture is really what's key to making this a success, I believe. Combining wood, rock, brick, stone, the water. There's so many different textures, and I think it just adds to the detail of it. And you saw me put in the fencing up here, which was railing. And the reason I chose railing is that a lot of times I'll be photographing through here looking up at the background, and I didn't want to use anything that would be like a view blocker. So a wood picket fence or a fence that had corrugated metal on it, it would look great, but when you're photographing it, you would see that fence and not what's behind it. So by having the railings there, leaving it open, when I photograph it, you can see through that, and you're able to see the taller buildings that are behind it. And since we're talking about texture, I will point out too the brick sidewalk next to the cement sidewalk. Just a variety of sidewalks adds detail to it. As I continue my sidewalks up through this area, I'll incorporate some maybe cobblestone, brick, cement, and then some maybe rectangle cement, square cement, just adding a variety. Same with all of the fencing. I'll continue to add a variety of types of fences. So there's so much more to do. It's so exciting to be sharing this with all of you. So hopefully you're inspired and you're learning some new things. Definitely go out and get some sculpey and try that for yourself. You can make detail parts, barrels, crates, retaining walls. You could even make sidewalks out of it or driveways out of it if you wanted to. It's a great material to work with. So, well, until next time, happy modeling, everyone.